me. When I was on a live, I heard a young man by the name of Tommy B. He spoke to, he actually talked to me and a couple other ladies and told me that his mother and father were in a 30-year marriage that basically broke down or broke up due to social media. 30-year marriage. That kind of knocked me off my feet because I did not realize that social media was such a problem, because that is just not my life. I have never, and I said it last night, I'm going to say it again. I have never had a social media site. Even what I do now, as far as Instagram and YouTube, my husband governs this for me. I never had one personally. I've never desired to have one. I absolutely think that a wife should be more about her husband and her children. So it kind of shocked me. But then as I got to thinking about it, and I thought about Instagram and I thought about Facebook, and I was like, you know what? This is crazy, because people can actually call you, push a button and call you and never have to have your number. And if you're not in a good place, ladies, I can definitely see how the temptation of what's on the other side of that phone could definitely cause problems within your marriage. So this is what inspired me. So I'm coming from that, but I'm also talking about the sex within a marriage, because this is where the breakdown probably first happens. That intimacy, the relationships. So what I want to ask you guys about is this Instagram and this Facebook world. This couple was married 30 years. And he said his mother was the one, I'm assuming, that was affected. What do y'all think about that? What's going on? Let me hear, Shan, let me hear from you first, because you the masculine energy in the room. So let's hear what you got to say about that.
Well, I really need to watch the movie to get more context, if that's what we're talking about.
Yes and no, but yeah.
But you know, it's interesting what made you think of that movie, which is a conversation you had last night with somebody whose parents are breaking up over 30 years. Let me touch on that.
Yeah.
One, I don't believe personally, and this is just my personal opinion, that social media is the reason why his parents is breaking up at 30 years in. I happen to believe that, I mean, that if they're married for 30 years, we can safely go back to 1991, you know, before anybody had an email address, before anybody had a smartphone, before there was mass communication the way it is now. And so if something happened along the way that made them break up, and they were already probably checked out, and they just needed a straw to break that back, to break that back. And so a lot of people often like to use excuses and want to come up with reasons to justify some of the behaviors or the reasons why they do things that doesn't make any sense. And if social media is it, then so be it. I'm not knocking it. I don't know the brother. I have never heard his name until you mentioned it now. I have no idea. I'm sure he believes that, but I don't think that social media is the reason why there's an issue. Now, I'd like to know more context, or maybe what happened. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's a communication issue. Maybe it's something that's been long standing for the last 15, 20 years. And it's somebody who's gotten tired and sick of. And then when they did that same thing that they did 20 years ago, again, over here on Facebook, then suddenly somebody said, okay, I'm done with this. But here's the thing. And this is the scary part. Like, it makes you say, who divorces at 30 years in? Like, who breaks up? You know, what do you think is going to be on the other side of that at 30 years old? A life of abundance, a life of freedom, a bunch of, you know, fun and happiness, and it's going to be great over there. Rarely do you ever see that. You know, most people who get divorces, men and women, regret the fact that they got the divorce afterwards. For women, I know the statistic. I don't know the statistic for men, but I'm sure it's just as high. But women, 65% of women who filed for divorce, got a divorce, wish they didn't. They regret the divorce afterwards, because apparently they thought that it was something else that was going to be there that wasn't there. Something else that made them think that this is going to be better to leave my man and go do something, go do what I've always wanted to do. And then they go and they try it, or they do it. And the next thing they know, they're like, man, I was better off staying up. The grass isn't greener over here. So the other thing is, it makes you wonder about the people like yourselves, like you, security boss, 26 years in, your husband is producing the show for you. Yes. You know, I'm seeing your hands aren't moving, but I'm seeing topics and stuff pop up. So that means you got a team. And and I like seeing that kind of stuff. That's really awesome to see. But it means nobody is safe. Not
Yes.
even you're 30 years in. What does that say? It means that you got to do the work until you die.
Yes.
As a husband, you got to do the work to make sure that your wife is covered until you die. You can't get lazy. You can't get comfortable. As a wife, you got to make sure your husband is taken care of until you die. You got to do all the things that you got him 30 years ago. And if you don't, then people will at one point decide to throw away 3 decades of being with one person for what? Another 10 to 15, 20 maybe? Maybe 30? I heard that. I
You know
heard
what?
the
I
husband for
have
that one.
I have no idea. I just know Tommy said he felt like there was some other things, but it must have came full circle through some sort of social media outlet. That was, like you said, the final straw. And he agreed that there had to be some other things that were lurking. But it just took me way back because you can push a button and a woman or a man be on the other end of that phone, and there's nothing to do but continue that engagement. And like you said, if a man is not covering, if a woman is not staying engaged, she will fall for that conversation because she's lonely, or she
Mhm,
just may be having a flaky day, or
mm,
whatever it is. It
mhm,
can definitely happen. So I appreciate what you said, and I totally agree with you. My husband is my covering, and he does protect me. The point that was made last night is that I don't engage with men through social media. My husband engages with men, or we do it together. So that is very, very important within marriage. So I appreciate that.